Hello and welcome to Self Power Now, where empowering women share their stories and advice about life, work, happiness, love, and success. I'm your host, Debbie Giussoni, and I'm so glad you're here with us today. So sit back and enjoy the show. My guest today is Joanne Persico. Joanne is quite a powerful and empowered Wonder Woman. She is a mother of two, a wife, a breast cancer survivor, and the co-founder of her own tech company called ONEcount, which helps companies collect, connect, and intelligently use their customer data. I've known Joanne for over 20 years, and I could say that she is a woman with a passion for life and for helping others. When COVID hit, she started a virtual mixer called Bold Minds, which I've attended many times. It's like a casual think tank of business professionals. And of course, since it's mainly women, we always share and help each other through whatever personal challenges we're having, which I think is one of the things women do best. So welcome, Joanne. Great to have you on here today.
Thank you so much, Debbie. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
And I know that you started that Bold Minds mixer really just for women, but then we started getting some men there too, right?
Yeah, they wanted to be in on this special group. And of course, I'm always inclusive. So we do have some gentlemen that attend, but it's kind of made it interesting. But we still get to talk about lipstick. When we want to talk about lipstick, it's like, okay, just close your ears for a couple of seconds.
Or they could take that knowledge back to their significant others some way. But I think they like being around that female energy. And sometimes I feel like they're sitting back, but they really want to just listen, right?
For sure. It has been an amazing dynamic.
It's been great. I love attending. Well, Joanne, I want to focus today on one of your personal challenges, which has affected so many other women in their lives or in their families or friends. In 2013, you were diagnosed with breast cancer while you were co-running your own company with two young children and a husband. First of all, what was your diagnosis at that time and what kind of treatment did you have to go through?
Sure. It was very interesting. My diagnosis at the time was, we think that you have DCIS, which is really non-invasive cancer. Mm-hmm. And after some pathology and some lumpectomies, it turned out that I had stage 2 cancer and stage 2A cancer. And so that was very shocking because
So it was more serious than you originally thought.
It was absolutely more serious. And if it wasn't my intuition to say, let's explore this a little bit further, it could have been a really bad scenario. So that's one thing where I tell women, first of all, number one, listen to your body, listen to yourself, be an advocate for yourself. And number two, don't be afraid to explore the unknown.
And also don't be afraid, I think too, like you said, listen to your intuition. Don't be afraid to take what the doctor tells you at face value, right? You're the only one that knows what's going on in your body, right?
Absolutely. And it was a weird journey too, because none of the cancer showed up in any of my mammographies and it didn't show up in my ultrasounds.
How did you find it?
Well, it just turned out how I found it was that the radiologist saw a cluster of calcifications and said, you know what, let's just explore what's happening. I don't like how they're kind of clustered together. And so it was only through a biopsy that they found some kind of cancerous cells that said, oh, well, wait a second, we need to explore even further. And I was one of the fortunate people to get a 3D mammogram. And that 3D mammogram is what actually showed this cluster of calcifications. If it was a 2D mammogram, this would have never showed up.
Now, I've never heard of that 3D mammogram. Is that available now to everybody? And
pretty much, yes.
Or do you have to request it?
Well, most facilities now have 3D imaging, and it shows hundreds, it shows thousands of. It's the clarity is I think it's available now for everyone. And 8 years ago, that wasn't the case. Some facilities and mammography or radiology places only still had 2D. So the fact that I did have 3D, but that to me told people, listen, and it's so you're going to laugh about this because sometimes I'll talk to a friend and I'm like, oh, so did you schedule your mammography?
Yeah.
Have you been checked? Are you making sure that you're taking? And they're like, no, I put it off. And I'm like, okay, when was the last time you scheduled your hair appointment? Or and they're like, oh, last week I was at the salon last week. And I'm like, oh, okay,
Priorities, priorities. Yeah.
yes, we need to have a little chat and a little conversation because if it wasn't for me and I was diagnosed at 46.
Mm,
And so,
which is young. Yeah.
which is young, right? Because I think mammographies at that time started at 50. But I was very, very lucky that my doctor at that time said, you know what, let's just get you in the system and let's get you started with some imaging because of dense breasts and that type of thing. I know we're getting
Right. They
into
want
a
that
little bit more
framework.
deep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
they want that framework. So it makes for a very fun conversation because then my friends or people would be like, you know what, you're right. I do make time to get my nails done, but I'm going to go ahead and get my mammography. It's so
Mhm.
important.
Yeah, I think so. And so you had that diagnosis, and then what kind of treatment did you go through?
Oh, goodness. Well, first, going through two lumpectomies, I didn't have a clear margin. And so then I opted for, and the tumor board opted to, suggested that I get a double mastectomy
Mm.
or a mastectomy. And I ended up going with a double mastectomy. And
May as well
so
keep it even, right?
you may as well keep it even. And then my reconstruction surgeon said, well, Joanne, you're going to get new boobs like a 26-year-old. And I
Oh
was like,
my
okay, well,
goodness.
who doesn't want that? I'm like, okay, I'll take them.
I
I'll
know my
take it.
sister actually went through the same thing. She had a double mast. She opted for the same thing, double mastectomy when she was going through breast cancer. And she was all excited about the new boobs she was getting. And yeah, you have to look at the positive, right?
Absolutely. Look at the positives. So that really went well, but it was then the second part of it where now you have to start considering what your treatment is going to be. And so I opted for chemotherapy. And
Mhm.
that was a hard decision too, because sometimes when you're in the driver's seat with cancer, it's really up to you what you want to do and what treatments you want to have, because not everything is mandated, right? You
Right,
can
right,
opt to not do chemotherapy. And so I didn't need radiation at the time because if you're removing your breast, there's really nothing to radiate because all
right,
the
right,
breast
right.
tissue was removed, of course. And so with the testing, what's amazing with the testing is they do have, for example, an oncotype test where they can give you a number and they can even tell you if chemotherapy would be advantageous or if
Yeah.
there's very little benefit. And so my number was at 25 and 26 is where that number is where you're like, oh, 26 and above, you need to have chemotherapy.
Oh,
So
so you
with
were
the
really close. Yeah.
I was really, really close and sitting down at Dana-Farber. I remember the oncologist looking at me and it was very simple because I was very, very torn. Should I do it or not? Because I knew I'm going to lose my hair and I do that and I'm going to get sick and I have
Mm.
mouth sores. And she looked at me and she says, okay, well, how old are your children again? And I was like 6 and 4. And she goes, okay, so if we can cut the reoccurrence in half and you can live a longer life for your children, what do you think you would like to do? And it was like, okay, when she put it that way,
As soon
she
as you
didn't make
mention your children, of course. And so that's like a 6-month ordeal at least, right? The chemo.
it was 4 treatments only. It was 4 treatments and it was every 3 weeks. So yes.
Okay. And you were still running your company throughout that?
I was still running the company. It's so funny when I think back at the treatments. I had my laptop. I was literally working with my laptop and running business calls.
Wait,
And
while you're dripping, while the chemo's dripping, you're working on your laptop. Is that what you're telling me?
yes, but it's even better. So one of the things that when I sat down with the hospital and the oncologist, I sat down with a woman and she made such a great, this is very interesting because this is where you could take things very positive or you can take things with a grain of salt or you could look at the glass half full. So
Yeah.
when I sat down with her immediate was, okay, you're going to do the chemo, you're going to lose your hair, you're going to lose your eyebrows, you're going to lose your eyelashes, you're going to have mouth sores, you're going to like everything was negative. And I said, oh my God, what the hell am I going to have to go through? And
they want to set you up for the worst case scenario, right?
they do, but at the same time, they do.
But
And
it's depressing, right?
it was very depressing. And I said, wow, okay, how am I going to get through this? And it was only through the grace of God that my neighbor across the street, who was this elderly woman that I became friendly with, I found out she was a survivor. And I was like, oh my God, you're a breast cancer survivor. I'm living across the street from you. I never even knew this about you. And she says, well, I have the best oncologist in the world. And you're going to go ahead and you're going to see him. His name is Dr. Richard Zelkowitz. And so I called and he's like, okay, come in this afternoon. I'm like, what? Wait, come in this
See, when
afternoon.
everything kind of falls into place like that, you know you're on the right path, right?
Absolutely.
When it's easy like that. And I've known you for so many years, and I know that nothing can get you down, because back in the days in the magazine publishing business, when we were both doing that, you were one of these people that always had such a strong and positive outlook on life. And I love that about you. So the fact that you sought out this woman, you found her, you went to another doctor, and then what did he say?
Oh my gosh. Well, he said to me, the immediate thing that he said to me, he said, listen, cancer sucks. Just like that. Like no doctor
Yeah.
talks to you like, he's like, cancer sucks, but I'm going to get you through it. And you're going to keep your hair. You're going to do the cold caps. I'm going to make sure that you're on the right medication, that you won't feel nausea, and you're going to keep your hair, and we're going to get you through it. And I was like, oh my God, I love you. It's like, wow. I'm like, really? Here I'm sitting with this woman just 2 weeks, a week and a half
I
earlier.
know. Oh my
And
gosh.
and sure enough, I did the cold cap therapy, which is basically freezing your hair follicle. You can imagine these gel caps on your hair, on your
Wow.
head, minus 40 degrees Celsius. And it literally froze the hair follicle, which keeps your hair intact. So I never really looked sick. That's one of the things
Yeah,
that,
that's
with
one of the
cancer,
things. Yeah.
yeah, when you look in the mirror, when you have no hair, it's hard to keep a positive attitude when you're looking at yourself
Yeah.
with no
It's like
hair.
that line remember that old line from Saturday Night Live? It's better, remember that character that Billy Crystal used to play? And he used to say,
Yes.
it's better to look good than to feel good. you know?
Yes, that's right.
But
There you
the thing
go.
is, it's a spiral, right? Because if you feel like you look good, you feel like you feel good too. It kind of feeds on
Yes.
each other. But it also comes from, also looking for that glass that's half full instead of half empty. Where do you think that comes from for you? Where does it come from?
Oh, I
I know
know.
for me, I sort of I feel like I was born more positive, and I didn't have a very positive family around me. They were a bunch of pessimists, but the more that they were pessimists, I was more optimist. And I don't, what about
Fascinating.
you?
That's fascinating because we both come from an Italian background and
Yeah.
both of our parents are immigrant parents from Italy. And that's really fascinating because I would say a lot of it actually came from my mother, who was a great role model in the sense that uh, she accomplished everything she set her sight on. And
Mm.
so growing up, and I'll talk a little bit about how my dad passed away when I was 12 years old, but growing up, my mom was always like, oh, wait a second, your father keeps getting late, arrives at work, and he keeps missing the bus. I'm going to learn how to drive. And we're like, what? You don't even speak English. What do you mean you're going to learn how to drive and get your
My mother,
driver's
wait,
license?
this is so funny. My mother learned how to drive in her older years too, well, older. I mean, she was probably, I would say maybe her 30s or so, right? But she never became a good driver. Like, she couldn't back up. She couldn't go on the freeway or the highway. She could only, do certain things. But good for your mother, because she
Yes.
probably needed it too after your father passed on.
Yes, absolutely. And there was so many examples like that. When we were born, my mom's dream was always to become a citizen. And my mom didn't go to school. I was like, how did you become an American citizen? Oh, it was my dream. God bless America. God bless America. Right? She'd pull into her driveway, Debbie, and she'd push the remote button and the remote door would go up and she'd
Yeah.
say, God bless America.
Well, because they all came from a really, poor time and a hard
Yes.
time. Like, my mother came here after the war. So, America was just a dream for them. And you're right. They worked really hard. My mother certainly did as well. They were strong.
Absolutely.
They were strong. They had a lot of strength of character for sure.
Oh, 100%. I think just having that can-do attitude and passing her, her citizenship. I still can't figure out how she did it because she didn't speak English. But I asked her, I said, how did you do it? And she goes, I literally begged the man and said, can you pass me because I will learn English and I will be a model citizen. And he did it. He passed her,
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh, that
and
is
it, yeah,
crazy.
maybe the rules back then were a little bit different,
Yeah,
but
you
my
think?
mother always said, listen, if you don't ask, you'll never know the answer. And
Right.
I always remember that because that's something that people don't do. They may be, oh, I'm not going to ask that. And so my mom, not speaking English very well and learning broken English, she would always say, ask, and I guess our three daughters became her translator,
Right.
her English speaking translators.
And then you lost your father when you were young. So your mother
Yes.
really had to be even stronger and set an example, huh?
Yes, absolutely. I think that was very telling when my dad passed away from a construction accident. My mom was always the capitano, or, as you would say,
The
the
head of the
rule, the
family.
head of
Yeah.
the head of the family.
The
But
matriarch.
when,
Yeah.
the matriarch, but when that happened, my mom didn't cave. My mom was like, okay, I'm raising my three daughters. And her dream was to give, since my mom had a second grade education, she really wanted all three of her daughters to go to college. That was
Mm,
her dream. And so she saved every penny and scrubbed floors and cleaned houses and put us through college, which was just a huge accomplishment.
amazing. Amazing. And so that's where you get your strength from. You get it from example, really.
Oh, look at you. You were a great example. Here, you were a female publisher in a very male high-tech environment. And, you'd come in with your sales team doing deals. And I was like, oh my God, I looked up to you.
I didn't even know how great that was at the time. I was just doing. And then years later, I was like, wow, I was like this really young woman and all my peers were these older men.
100%. Exactly. You were a trailblazer, and not only that, it's a very technical, industry. And like you said,
Yes.
all these male executives running IBM and Sony and Microsoft and Apple. And so I had
Yeah, those were
wonderful
good times.
examples
Those were good
throughout my
times.
whole life.
But
Yeah.
I think I had a strength or a coping mechanism that I think you used as well with your cancer, because when I was in the corporate market, there was a period of time, about 10 years, where I was dealing with a lot of tragedy in my own family. And it wasn't in, my own personal health. But of course, your health, gets affected by that. And I sort of made a decision to compartmentalize that in my head, because I put it in a separate box. Because when I went to my job, and, as you mentioned, the job was pretty high level, I couldn't bring that in. And I wanted that to just be part of my life, not all of my life. Because if I brought that into work, it would pretty much overshadow everything I did. And I have a feeling from, talking to you before this podcast, when you talk about your journey, you sound like you made that part, that cancer part, it's part of your life. You have to deal with it. It's something you have to deal with, but you didn't make it stop you from having a life and taking care of your kids and running your business. How do you do it? I mean, for me, it just happened. I just knew that I had to compartmentalize it. But how did you do it? Because, you were running your own business. It's a little more difficult.
No, that's a really great question. And you don't want, any type of struggle that you have, you don't want that to define your life. And certainly the
Yes.
C word, the cancer word, I said, oh my God, I can't let this define me. It's just something that's part of my journey. And it's something, maybe there's a reason why it happened to me, that I'm going to help other people. And so I do the same kind of thing of compartmentalizing and just kind of putting things in bucket and saying, you know what, it's there, but running a company, running employees, being the salesperson that's driving revenue, I just kept going full steam ahead.
Yeah.
And just kept looking at it, things from a positive perspective. Oh my God, they caught it. I was so lucky that I had the right surgeon, the right oncologist, the right
Mm-hmm.
family behind me, and the right prayers. And I just look at things from a positive perspective. And you have to do that. Sometimes you need to do that, because it's very easy to just say, oh my God, this is against me now. Oh, this is against me. Oh my God, I have to, deal with
Yeah,
this.
it'll take over all your thoughts. And I always tell people too,
Yes.
when they're dealing with an issue in their life, a challenge, and it's usually a challenge in one area. Say maybe it's their career, or maybe it's their health, or maybe it's their relationship, or maybe it's, going through, some other personal challenge, that if you look at your life as like a pie chart, right? That's only one little sliver of it. That's
Yes.
not your whole life. And if you can just isolate that one little sliver, then and look at the big picture and have gratitude for everything else that actually is going right in your life. I mean, you had these two beautiful children and you had a
Yes.
healthy marriage and a business you were launching, and it actually helps you focus, distract you from the negativity that could really envelop your entire being.
Yeah, I think I love that analogy with the pie slice because it's like,
Mm.
how big do you want that pie slice to look?
Yeah.
I could have said, oh, that's at least a half of my pie right now,
Mhm.
dealing with the surgery and the drains and the medications. But I was like, no, it was so funny. I actually had my surgery on December 13th. 2013, and people said to me, oh, you're there, why would you even do that during the holidays, and it's going to ruin it. I'm like,
As if
oh
you had a
no.
choice to hold
Well,
off.
well, that's true. Well, that's true. Number one, I mean, I could have held off, but I was like, oh no, that's the perfect time because no one's in the office. No, I'm not going to miss
Yeah.
any business calls. I'm going to be able to relax and recover during this period of the holidays. And like, oh, I never thought of it that way. So I was like back at a trade show. And it was so funny. I actually ordered baseball hats with our company logo on them because my hair was a little thinner. And I was like, oh, I'm just going to order. It was at a golf resort, the conference. So I said, okay, this is a perfect opportunity to do a logo hat, a ONEcount hat. And it's so funny. It's like you said,
That's
Debbie, it's a
definitely
matter.
making lemonade out of lemons for sure. But see, you and I think we both come from a very positive perspective all our life. And there are people
Yeah.
that aren't like that. So we need to help those people try to figure out how can you be more positive. And I think one of the things that's really helpful to people that aren't as positive is to surround themselves with more positive people, right? Because it's sort of
Yes.
like you feed off that energy. And what we're in your life, obviously we heard about your mother and whatnot, but the kind of people that you had around you, what were they like? And were they helping you or hurting you? What did you do?
I would say I tried to surround myself with people who were always helping or always had a positive outlook themselves, or who were even like people who pray, even
Yes.
someone who said, you know what, do you mind if I pray over you? And I was very lucky that I found a great spiritual a church. And then
Hmm.
I had not only, my friends and my family, and I had a wonderful husband who helped me through the entire process, who was there for me, changing the caps, giving me my meds, making sure I had a great meal, staying
Oh,
healthy. But also spiritually going to a wonderful church and people saying, do you mind if I pray? And I'm like, oh, I'll take as many prayers as you can
hey,
send my way.
positive energy, take it all.
Take it all spiritually, even, yeah. So I think that certainly helps. And I think if you really sit down with people who are negative or have a negative outlook, it just changes your mindset.
Brings you down.
It brings you,
Gosh.
here's a really good example. So when I first determined that I was going to need to have this chemotherapy, everyone talks about this, it's awful, and
Right.
you all the negative things, right? And so when I sat down with one of the staffers who was also an oncology partner, she said to me, well, Joanne, one of my clients who just finished during chemo ran the marathon. And I was like, wait, what did you just say? Wait, she ran the New York City Marathon? And she's
Wow.
like, oh, yeah, she ran the marathon. I was like, okay, if she can run the marathon, I can run my company on my lap. I can run the business. And, so just hearing words of positivity really, it just shifts your mindset.
Yeah, it's very empowering. That's actually why I do this podcast, Self Power Now, because I want women to hear other women's stories, whether it's about personal challenges or work challenges or how they started a business or whatnot, to see that, hey, look, everybody has challenges. Everybody goes through challenges, but they can get through them and you can too, right?
Absolutely. I think this podcast is a phenomenal way to help other women because it's through these types of, podcasts that really just empower women and men too. Because I'll tell you,
Yes.
anybody listening to this, really, it relates to everybody.
Well, we're talking about finding the right kind of people to be around. What about cancer support groups? You actually have an interesting story about joining or not joining one. You want to share that?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things, the hospitals have amazing programs that you can join and groups that you can join, and even people who would talk to your children, like a child psychologist.
Mhm.
Because my children knew of my diagnosis, and I didn't keep anything really from them.
Although they
And
were
so
pretty young, did they
they
really
were pretty
know
young.
the
They really
gravity of
don't
it? Yeah.
yeah, I don't think they understood the gravity of it, but when mom said, "Hey, I'm not feeling that great," or "I have a little bit less energy," they understood, but they were on the young side. But going back to this group, it was really interesting. I remember Michelle, she was the woman who put together the programs, said to me, "Joanne, I don't think you should go to the program, to this support group program." And I was like, "Oh, really? Why is that?" And she says, "Well, because number one, most of the women there look and feel and talk and have a very negative outlook and a grim, dim view of cancer and look sick. And you're nothing like that. You
You're
are."
too
And
positive
she
for the
says,
support
"Yes,
group.
exactly. You're too positive for the support group. You have your hair. You don't look sick. You're
Although I think
like."
you would have definitely, like, brought people up, although some people you might have lost in the process because they just can't go there, but you would have definitely brought people up.
I think I could have brought people up, but it was very interesting how she was protective of saying, "You know what? I want you staying on your positive outlook." And a lot of times when you hear, and I see this right now too on Facebook, and there's different cancer groups, and some people just like to commiserate and just,
Yeah.
"Oh, I lost, and oh, I have no energy." And, and when you start reading too much of that or hearing too much of that, you can certainly change your disposition.
Well, also, when you concentrate or focus on the negative, it just expands, right?
Yeah, I agree with that 100%.
Yeah, it expands. So the traditional support group wasn't for you, but I think for many women that those support groups are extremely important. And
Yes.
regardless of what kind of challenge you're going through in life, whether it's cancer or a physical challenge or an emotional challenge, it's always good to know whether you're in a physical support group, a Zoom group, or you read a book about someone else's experience. It's good to know other people are going through the same thing because it makes you feel less alone, because
For
when
sure.
things happen to you that are bad and you think, why do bad things happen to good people? Bad things happen to everybody, and you're not the only one. It don't have to have that why me victim kind of attitude all the time.
Yeah, I agree. I agree 100% with that. And I think surrounding yourself with positive people certainly helps, or people who've gone through it. That's why I'm actually helping other people. It was so interesting when I got diagnosed. All of a sudden, I got calls from people saying, "Joanne, you're never going to believe this. My best friend was just diagnosed with cancer." And I was like, "Oh, have her call me." Absolutely have her call me, and I can help her navigate with decisions. There's so many decisions that you have to make, and there's so much data, and oh my gosh, it's overwhelming. And so I became a source of help to other people. And so I didn't do it in the support group, but it certainly did it reaching out to individuals who wanted to, talk a little bit more about what does this really mean to them,
Yeah.
and share those insights.
I'm glad you brought that up. My sister, who I mentioned earlier, she's the same way. She is so open to helping anyone who has been diagnosed because she kind of went through, she kept saying, I'm patient zero on all this. She would get a symptom and the doctor would say, oh, no, that's not from the chemo. That must be something else. Or no, no one else has ever had that, And she thought she'd be like, well, I have it. And she actually ended up writing a very funny book about her experience, which, if anybody's interested, just search on Angela Gisoni, same last name as me. But it's important for you to support other people and other women because they need that. And they need that from someone who really understands what they're going through so they can resonate.
Absolutely. I think that's why the Bold Minds, we're in week 85 now. And I think that's why
Wow.
the Bold Minds has become this amazing, it is a think tank. They're forward thinkers, they're CEOs, execs, And why it's been so popular and why we are in week 85 is that exact reason. It's a place where you feel at home. It's all off the record conversation, by the way.
Yeah,
We
it's
don't
not
record.
recorded.
It's not, yes, exactly. So,
Which is good.
yeah, which is really good because we really get down to, okay, financially, what is happening? What does that mean to you? And so we get into some really realistic conversations. And because it's off the record, people feel comfortable. We even have a swear jar. So, and of course it's at 5:30. Yeah, that's, we have to figure out which organization we want to donate funds to. It's a virtual swear jar, but that just gives you a sense of how people are so comfortable. People want to feel part of something. They want to
Yeah.
feel
And even in
part of
this
a
day and
network.
age, you don't, I think it's even easier because you can just do a lot of that stuff online. You don't have to even leave your living room. Before, you used to have to go somewhere to do a support group. So, for women who might be going through some health challenges, whether it's cancer or something else, what would you say is the number one thing for them to keep in mind right now?
Number one thing to keep in mind for their health. Well,
Yeah.
first of all, number one, listen to your body. And I think that's an important thing. And don't minimize things. I think a lot of women sometimes put themselves second. I know I did that too. I was
Women
guilty of
always
that.
put themselves second
Oh
because
my
they're
gosh,
always
it was
taking
the
care of everyone
kids.
else. Yeah.
Absolutely. We're taking care of everyone else. I remember dropping, I literally, it was, I think 3 days I was home from the hospital from my surgery. And I literally picked up my child, my son Leonardo, from daycare. And all the teachers were like, what the, they knew what was going
Didn't you
on.
have
They're like,
drains in and stuff?
yes, I did.
Oh
Oh,
my
I did.
God.
I did. 10 days later, I was literally at a Christmas party with a holiday sweater on with two drains, one each on each side. And they're like, what are you doing picking up your son? I'm like, oh, well, someone's got to pick him up, you know? And, so I would
Wow.
say is sometimes you do need to take the time, and we always put ourselves second, or our children or others first. But I was going to say is listen to your body, but also make time for yourself. Make time, and
Yes.
I don't do that enough. Sometimes I'm guilty of that,
Yeah,
where I'm
you're a
on the
go,
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 on the
go
go,
kind of
go, go,
person.
go,
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
And so I would say maybe those would be two tips. I'm sure there's probably more if I had.
What about during the holidays? I mean, you just mentioned you went to the holiday party. I mean, do you take a back seat? What do you do?
Oh, I didn't take a back seat at all. I was like, oh, I don't want to be moping on the couch by myself or laying down. I'm like, I want to be, having the cheesecake and this cannolis. And
Were you able to drink? Were you able to drink any alcohol?
let me just see. I think but by day 10, I think I was, but
Mm.
just minimally,
Yeah,
minimally.
because you might be on some painkillers.
Yeah,
What
I was on
about,
some, yeah.
all of us have had, friends and family that have gone through, health challenges, whether it be cancer or something else. And I think sometimes when you have a good friend or family member and they have a very hard diagnosis, you don't know what to say or what to do. And so you default and you don't do anything or you don't say anything, which is really tough for the person going through that. What do you think? Like, if you remember back of those people that really supported you, what was the best thing that someone could do if you have a friend going through something like that?
I think that's a great question. I think that sometimes you're right. You don't know what to say. And sometimes what you say, I think if you say, listen, I've never been in your shoes. I know I can't say from your perspective, but I'm here for you no matter what. I'm here to listen to you.
Yeah, if you
And
just want to talk, if you want to
if you just,
cry,
yeah,
whatever you want to do.
that's absolutely right. Because the last thing you want is someone saying, well, blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, wait a second. Have you ever been
Yeah,
poison in your body and chemo, in your entire, blood system? And they're like,
yeah.
oh no. Okay. Then you really,
You don't
uh,
know what. Well, and I do. This is the Italian in me coming out. Is I always, and again, it depends on if they can eat or not. But sometimes they have family. I always bring food. I always cook something or bring something, even if it's just
yes.
soup, that they can get down, or something for their family so that they don't need to worry about food. There was a friend of mine, actually someone that you and I worked with in corporate, that had breast cancer, that lived near me. And she had a friend who actually organized a schedule for people to come and bring food to her. She was single, this woman who was going through this. So she didn't have family around her to support. She didn't live near her family. And so we all, like my day might have been a Thursday. And
Oh, that's
Thursdays I would
amazing.
bring
It's
something,
wonderful.
bring some food to her, because the last thing you want to think about, and to me, it's like Pez the Italian. It's like the worst thing is like, is there going to be food? Are they going to be able to eat?
Yes.
So
How am I going to have the
bringing
energy to cook? How am I going to have the
right.
energy to sleep? I think that's wonderful.
Right. So food
It's
is, yeah, just
uh,
little things like that, food or a card or just a phone call or something like that, I think will be helpful. And believe me,
yes.
we've all known people that have gone through, I don't know what the statistics are now for breast cancer. It used to be what, 1 in 3 or 1 in 5. I don't even know, but yeah, someone somewhere, has
Yes.
some sort of problem or cancer. Lastly, I want to ask you on a daily basis, and I know Joanne is like this positive person, what makes you feel empowered? This is about, this whole podcast is about self-empowerment. What makes you feel empowered in life and work? Like, do you do anything specific for yourself to have that keep on keeping on attitude with all that joy and passion? What's your thing?
Yeah, no, I think that's a great question. What keeps me empowered? I think just feeling that I have a blessed life and
Mm,
having a lot of gratitude.
yeah.
I try to soak it all in. I mean, right now I'm sitting in my home. I moved to South Florida. It's 84 degrees. I have palm trees swaying, and I just
Just to be
or
thankful for the beauty around you. Right.
yeah, the
Exactly.
beauty, exactly. All the simple things, having my kids
Mm,
smile or giving
hmm
me a hug or a kissing, mom, we're here for you.
mm,
Taking the time, taking the time. I don't do like, I'm not big. Well, well, right now I can't do exercise. I'm like, there's certain things that you can do, you can't do.
yes.
And so it doesn't have to be something big. It could be just something as little as, having gratitude, thanking God and thanking your family and the people around you for being
Mm,
there for you. I don't know, just like simple things, because it doesn't have to be so grand, and I'm
that's beautiful.
grateful of just I get up in the morning and I'm brushing my teeth and I'm using both hands and I'm walking. I'm like, oh, thank you for another beautiful day, Lord. I
Yes.
really
And
have
sometimes
found
we don't realize how important those little things are until we miss them, right? Until we don't have them. So it is important. Sometimes I just say, hey, thanks for the sunshine today. That it's beautiful
yes,
out. Mm,
exactly. And I think a lot of times we don't take time to live or enjoy little moments. And I
hmm
always say, take the time to take like a mini moment, a mini second, or a mini moment, or a mini
Mini
snapshot.
gratitude moment. Yeah.
Yeah, a mini gratitude moment. And some people say, "Oh, make a list." I'm on Clubhouse and I hear all of these different speakers and coaches, and they're saying, "Oh, make a list of all the pros and all the things that you're grateful for, or all the things that have happened in your life where things just fell into place." And I'm like, God, that is so true. You need to take the time, because we're so busy in our lives, running our
Yeah.
companies, running
Yeah.
our
We're
families,
always trying to
running.
move forward instead of just sitting and saying, oh, this is just right here. This present moment is just beautiful in it of itself.
Absolutely, 100%. I think that would be just something to do on a daily basis.
Yes. Joanne, that was beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your presence and positivity here with us today. Listeners, if you'd like to connect with Joanne, her company, you can find those links on our show page on selfpowernow.com/podcast. Have a great day and come back and join us next time. Thanks for listening to Self Power Now. If you enjoyed today's show, please share it with others, follow it on your favorite podcast platform, and join our community on selfpowernow.com and receive 3 free happiness gifts. And while you're there, if you're looking for more ways to be happy, healthy, peaceful, and loved, check out my books and new online courses. Until next time, this is Debbie Jasoni wishing you self-power now.